Welcome to Seven Figure Chiro, the podcast that is all about taking your chiropractic practice to new financial heights. We're your hosts, Dr. Jeff and Kristin Berard.
And twice a month, we are here to share the insider strategies, tools, and success stories that will help you scale your chiropractic practice to seven figures and beyond.
Whether you're at the start of your journey as an associate or you're ready to take your practice to the next level, we've got expert interviews, strategies, and inspiring stories from chiropractors who have turned their dreams into a reality.
So get ready to take your chiropractic practice to a new level, and let's crush your vision for success.
Well, hello and welcome to Seven Figure Chiro podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jeff Berard, here along with Kristin.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about the $1 million question. And this $1 million question, I think, is applicable to how chiros can get more out of themselves and or how you can get more from your team. Allow me to tell you a quick story about Terry Crews and the $1 million question, and this will help better illustrate the importance and what the $1 million question can and will reveal. You know, obviously as a business owner, there's always this need to get more from your team. It's really hard for team members who aren't business owners to have as much invested mentally and physically in the business as you are. But I feel this question is a good way to help those team members see and help illustrate what they're not giving you. I think it's kind of like a self-reflection for people to see. So Terry Crews, you can Google him, you'll see who he is. He's an actor. He's a funny dude. He's from Flint, Michigan. He started his career in the NFL. He went to Western Michigan, played football there, went on to become an NFL player, and he really didn't like football that much. He played football because that was his only way out of Flint, Michigan, and he wanted to do bigger and better things than be in Flint, according to him. So he played football. He didn't care for it too much, so for that reason, he really wasn't given all that he knew he had to give to the sport. He just was kind of skating by. He was just skating by enough to maybe appeal to, the NFL. He was picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles at the end of his football career, which was short. He was an artist, and that's what he got his degree in, was art and illustration. So that was his passion. It always has been. So he decided to take him and his family and move to LA to pursue his dream as an artist and as an illustrator. He wanted to become an illustrator. Long story short, he worked a lot of menial jobs, and he was actually a janitor. And he just was realizing how am I going to get out of this and into what I want to do? And it kind of seemed like a dead end. And then he asked himself a question, and that question was, how would I think and act if I was getting paid $1 million to sweep this floor? What would I do different? How would I think different? How would I act? And that question that he asked himself, he realized how much he wasn't doing, and it gave him a different perspective on how to approach everything he did. And that question translated to everything in his life, everything he did, his relationships, his daily tasks, how small they might be. How would I do this different if I was getting paid $1 million? So one of the ways I see that this can be used with your team is to ask that question of your team and have them write down what they would or would not do if they were being paid $1 million to do their job. And I am sure if all those team members are honest, there would be a lot of things on there that they're currently not doing. And in my opinion, that should be the new standard for those team members, and say, congratulations, you just constructed your new duties for your position. And I know there's an argument, well, I'm not getting paid $1 million. But what that tells us is when you answer that question, what are you leaving on the table? What's your untapped potential? Because we all want to exude our full potential. It's whether or not we're willing to do that or not. So if someone isn't willing to give you 100% as an employer, I don't think anyone would hire someone knowing, you know what, I love this job. I want to take the job you're offering, but I'm going to give you 75%. That's really all I want to provide. I would tell them to go pound sand. So we did this in an office meeting today, actually, and we didn't ask to see the list. because it's really meant for them for self-reflection. Hopefully it stimulates them to see this untapped potential that they have if they're honest with themselves. But I would encourage to see that list. Now that we've done it, I've said, I would like to see that list. And that list would be their new expectation of what their job should be. And if that person isn't willing to give you 100%, well, unfortunately, you need the team to make the dream. And if they're not willing to be on the team and give 100%, then there's not a position for them in the office. But those that are willing to go that 100%, sometimes 110%, then you're starting to build a team and build a culture. So I think this is applicable not only for business owners, because those are questions we can ask ourselves, but also, providing that question to your team. I don't care what their position is, whether it's a janitor, whether it's, a front desk person, whether it's just an assistant. What would you do different if you're getting paid $1 million? And I know all of us, if we were honest with that answer, we would write down things that we're not doing. I truly believe that.
Or things that we are doing that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, if someone were watching you and you're getting paid $1 million, what would you do different? Well, I'm sure a lot of those answers, if we were to look at the list, it would be, I wouldn't be on my phone, on TikTok. I wouldn't be working on a side hustle under the time that I'm being paid for by my employer. I mean, you wouldn't risk it. If you're getting paid $1 million, you wouldn't risk it. And I bet if you're getting paid $1 million, you would work overtime. You would do things to make damn sure that you got that pay. And, there's things you do sometimes are how you do things all the time. And that's something that I think people would get out of it. And it's applying that question to everything you do so that you can tap into that untapped potential that you'll see when you ask that question. So I would encourage that question to be asked not only of yourself, but from your team, and have that the new standard that team needs to step up and produce, because if they're not willing to do it now, it's never going to happen. People say, well, if I had my own business, I would do it. Well, that's false. And I think everybody knows that, those people that are exceptional and they give 110%, it shows. It all shows. It shows in the metrics. It shows in the participation. When we offer certain team members a potential to make more money because we're willing to give them more responsibility, and if they turn that down, to me, that's exposing an unwillingness to give 100%, right? So what's your thoughts on that, Kristin?
Well, I think that it's how much effort do you put into the task that you need to do in order to execute your job appropriately. It can be anything from working at a small fast food restaurant to being the CEO of Amazon. I also think, the comment that you made about, okay, I'll go own my own business. Well, let's ask this question. If you decided to go own your own business and at some point you're going to have to hire someone, wouldn't you want them to have that same mentality? Or how would you feel if they were doing some of those things that maybe you were choosing to do, which were not 100% of what was expected of you? And it's shifting the mindset of it's all about me to it's about what the opportunities of what you're doing will generate for you. And those opportunities can be generated for you tomorrow, or they can be generated for you 20 years down the line. You don't know when that opportunity is going to, come forward. And when it does, if you didn't give 100%, you may not get that opportunity, or you may pass it by. I would say it's not just the work life. We should think this way at home when it comes to doing chores around the house, to how we spend our time with our family and friends. What if you had $1 million house? I mean, would you throw trash around it and never keep it up? You can make a beautiful tiny little house look like $1 million by putting a lot of time and energy into something, even if it doesn't look like it's $1 million. So that's my feeling with this. And if you want somebody to do above and beyond that, what we've done is we've tried many different things in our organization. I mean, how many different bonus programs do you think that we have come up with, Jeff?
It seems like we change it every quarter at least.
It seems like that. And so the problem is And something that I had to do a lot of evaluating on and research on is when you have a team of people, you want that team of people to work together. But at the same time, each individual has to have metrics that they individually need to meet. And it can't hold those other people who may be working hard back. And so something that we've really done a lot of research on, and we just took a course, a couple of us leaders took a course to really hone in and understanding how to implement this program, is a gain sharing program. And I really encourage people who have tried different bonus programs, or maybe they haven't tried different bonus programs, is to try something new and at least look into this, because we've tried everything from incentives that are year long. And in today's world, we cannot wait a year. There is so much instant gratification in just about everything that we do nowadays, that if you offer up something that incentivizes somebody to work hard all year long and wait for something, it's very difficult. It's like that carrot dangling so far in front of you, you're never going to reach it. And so we went from year-long bonus structures to quarterly bonus structures. And I even found that the quarterly bonus structures are very difficult. And so if you can break down bonuses or gain sharing on a monthly basis, if you can handle it, it is a great way for your team to really work towards something, but know if they had a bad month, the next month is going to start all over again in no less than 31 days.
Each month is a new month to start over. And just to go back on that $1 million question, there was a patient several years ago I was treating that worked for a CEO of a very large corporation in our town, and she came to me. She was just dressed to the nines, and she usually isn't or wasn't. And she said, "Wow, you look really good today." I said, "Do you have a hot date?" And she said, "Well, no." My boss, who I knew who it was, she said, "My boss says, why don't you dress for the job you want instead of the job you have?" And that's kind of the same mindset of the $1 million question, right? And if you can't think of why would I do all this extra stuff when it's for someone else? Well, that statement that she told me, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. It's the same thing, act like you're the owner and think like you're the owner, because if you're not able to recognize what the employer values, then you're never going to rise, or you shouldn't rise in that company. If you can't see what the employer values, and that's a question that I would encourage you to really reflect on, is on your employer. What does my employer value out of me? What could I do that they would say, wow, this person has really stepped up and gone above and beyond? Let's say you're paid, $100,000 a year and you want to make $300,000 a year. Well, there's a basic standard that employer expects you to produce for that 100,000. And if you're producing that standard that justifies that 100,000, that doesn't automatically qualify you for a raise, right? That raise comes from understanding what the employer values and going above and beyond that. So keep that in mind for business owners trying to encourage team members to do more, and keep that in mind if you're a team member and you want more. Is look at what the employer values and what is important to them and for their business. And if you can produce that, you're going to be worth a heck of a lot more than you're worth now.
Well, and also it's consistency, right? You can't just do well for 1 week out of 13 weeks. Like, hey, I had a great week. That can get some congratulations and a good pat on the back. But if you're looking for growth, there needs to be consistency. Jeff, his eyes roll backwards when I start talking about statistics and using spreadsheets and stuff like that. But let me tell you, the data, it never lies. It's data in raw form that you can pull from different sources that show how well the business is doing, how well a person is doing. And you can also evaluate their consistency. You can look week by week, month by month, year by year. And if that person overall is trending upwards with enough that makes sense to pay them more or incentivize them more or give them something that they deserve, then you have something that you can show your employer. Hey, I went from here to here, and this is what I did for the company, and this is why I deserve X, Y, and Z. as opposed to if you're just having one good week, or here and there throughout the year, you have a couple good weeks, but overall your average is just kind of shitty. It's not going to constitute growth with your salary or incentives because the company isn't able to make enough money to incentivize you. And so you have to look at those kind of things when trying to figure out how you can grow financially.
I hope those suggestions are helpful to get more out of your team that you know they're capable of doing. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, when you look at a Division I athlete versus a non-Division I athlete, a JUCO or something like that, they have something a little different than the average athlete. And maybe they're not the best athlete, but they have the will to do what it takes. And you know who those people are. At the end of the day, if someone is trying out and they're trying to play a Division I sport and they don't have what it takes, well, the coach simply tells them, sorry, you don't have what it takes to be a part of the team. At the end of the day, you have to be able to decipher if those people if they're coachable and they have the will, if they're willing, right? There's so many people that are capable, but are they willing to do it? Everybody's capable to have a six-pack of abs, but is everybody willing to do what it takes to have a six-pack? You have to find those people willing to do it. And if they're not willing to do it, you're going to be chasing your tail. So all this stuff we're talking about is all fine and great, but at the end of the day, you as the coach have to pick a team that's either coachable or they have that raw talent with the will to do what needs to be done. So I hope that's helpful. Until next time, this is a Seven Figure Chiro, and keep up the good fight.
Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Seven Figure Chiro.
We hope you're walking away with some valuable insights to apply to your practice.
Remember, building a seven-figure practice doesn't happen overnight, but with the right strategies and mindset, it's absolutely within your reach.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow chiropractors who are on the same path.
And be sure to join us the next episode for more strategies, bring clarity to your vision, and elevate your financial practice to success.
Until then, keep pushing forward and making an impact.